Dear friends, I welcome you all to my channel Explore Literature with Kali. Dear friends, in this video, we are going to discuss about a beautiful and satirical poem, a description of the morning by Jonathan Swift. Dear friends, this is a poem which is a satire on the indifference of workers in the London city. Usually, morning is a time in which everybody seems to be so brisk. Okay, so in this poem, Swift has shown London city not in its brisk mode but some dull and corrupt life of few workers has been shown in the poem, dear friends. So instead of showing the outer appearances of London city, which makes anyone to get amazed, here author shows a contrastical London city in which the workers approach their work, their duty in an indifferent manner, dear friends. So this is a predominantly a satire. This poem is a satire. So we cannot talk about satire without mentioning Jonathan Swift. His works like Gulliver's Travels were good satires of the time. So they criticized the contemporary society all over the world at that time. So this poem was published in Steel Startler in 1709, April 30. Okay, let's don't waste the time. We can go to the poem. So, dear friends, the poem starts with a description of the reddish sky of the morning in London city. So the sky was so brisk with its reddish color, which was emanated from the sun. So here and there some carriages went on in a busy manner. Here and there. So the London city is filled with a lot of vehicles and carriages. So the morning was so busy, and here, among many sincere workers, some corrupt workers, some corrupt people are shown in this poem by Jonathan Swift, and he condemns and satirizes them. Right. I hope you all will understood that instead of praising the beauty of the morning, this poem deeply satirizes few people who are very indifferent with their works. They are hesitating to do their duty, even their duty. Yes, he shows four workers. First, a maidservant of a house. Second, an apprentice in the house. Third servant, as a coalman. Third worker was a coalman, that is a coal seller. So those peoples were very famous in during 1700s, during 18th centuries. The coalmen were very famous. So a coalman has been showed. Later, a woman who sells a brick dust has been showed. And later on, Swift satirically criticizes the jailers of the prisons in the London city. And later on, he also satirizes the schoolboys. Yes, so you would have known that these are the workers who were satirized by Jonathan Swift. Yes, first comes a beautiful maidservant, a beautiful maid, Betty. What Betty does? Betty is a servant of a house. She works as a maid in a house, but in the morning she hurriedly wake up from her bed, and on the bed her master sleep. So she slept with her master when the master's wife was not in the house. So she maintains an illicit affair with her master. So she wakes up from her master's bed. So she, instead of engaging with her duties of cleaning the house and doing several house courses, she creates an illicit affair. She has an illicit affair with her master. By doing that, she simply evade from her work. She get some money from her master by evading her work in the house. Dear friends, so that is not only a corrupt was done by her. What she does is she immediately wakes up from her master's bed after having courtship with him. She directly goes to her bed. She simply disheveled her bed. Okay, so that if her master's wife comes, she would not suspect the maid. So the bed would show that the maid has slept in her own room and not slept with the master. So that is what the corruption that the maid does. So then comes a foolish servant, a stupid servant. Then comes a stupid servant. Instead of cleaning the house, instead of making the house instead of making the house clean, what he does is simply very indifferently he puts mop of the house. What he does is, instead of cleaning the floor, he has only parted the dirt and spread it throughout the room. So he is not 100% sincere in his work, dear friends. You see, he simply takes a mop, and he, instead of cleaning the floor very clean, he just spreads the dirt all over the house. So this is what the corrupt done by that stupid servant in the house. So in this work, dear friends, Jonathan Swift satirizes the half-hearted people, the half-hearted mindset of people towards their work. So the lack of duty consciousness is harshly criticized in this poem, dear friends. So who comes after Betty is another girl named Mole. And this mole, she wills up her mouth in an artistic manner. She wills up her mouth in an artistic manner, and she prepared to clean the stairs with the mouths. So there a youth waits with a very poor broom, a broom with a broom which lost its quality, a poor quality broom, a servant with a poor quality broom. He doesn't even care for better broom to clean the house. So what he does is he just getting some broom, some damaged broom from somewhere. So indifferently brings that, and he indifferently shows his sincerity towards his work. So he simply evades. So that youth simply evades all the sincerity towards his work, and what he does is he simply brings a poor quality broom, and he with which he just cleans the kennels and the wheels and the storeroom of that house. So then comes a small coal man. So the coal traders were very famous during 18th century. So you can, if you go and search in the internet, you can see that coal man, the coal traders who brought a lot of coals, a huge sum of coals on their carriages, came to streets of London city, and they selling that. And in the poem, there comes a coal trader, a coal man, who calls his customers, who calls the people to buy the coal, and his sound was in a rhythmic manner, so in a cadence deep. So Swift here satirizes that the cold man, in order to attract the customers, he just shouts, he just calls out at them in a rhythmic manner. So then some bill collectors are also being portrayed in the London city, and there is a chimney sweeper also accompanies with the coal man, and that chimney sweeper is simply shrill, is making sounds with the shrill. So by the way he supports his master, that is coal man, he assists with that coal man, so he also shouts. So here it is portrayed how far the workers, so especially the workers in the, even the workers, the manual workers, the workers who are doing manual works, so they are menial works, they are also show indifference, and they simply want to evade the time. Simply they want to evade their work, pass their work by indulging in some other activities, dear friends. Right. So there comes at last in the poem, dear friends, there are two important people are shown at the last part of the poem. One is one is jailers, the corrupt jailers of London city. What they do is they simply release they are prisoners at the night time. So those prisoners are simply thieves. Instead of instead of uh, instead of protecting the people from those thieves, what they do is simply those jailers simply release the thieves in the prison at the night time, and the jailers makes them and the jailers make them to steal and loot and plunder several things in the London city. And at the morning, the jailers simply receiving those thieves into the prison. So from them, they get bounty of a lot of things. So what they have stolen during the night. So what are the things they stolen in the night? They simply gave them to the jailer. So the jailer collaborates with the prisoners to loot the London city. This is how the jailers in those times in the London city were at most corrupt. So their dull and corruptive attitude towards their work is shown in this poem, dear friends. So it's a satire. It's a satire on the contemporary society of London City. So at last, funnily, Swift satirizes the schoolboys. So usually nowadays, irrespective of any country, the small boys are hesitating to go to school. Going to school is a kind of a difficulty to them, dear friends. That's what we are seeing nowadays. But this poem was written before 300 or 350, sorry, 300 years. This poem was written before 300 something years. But at that time, Swift shows in this poem that the boys in the London city are hesitant to go to school, and the schoolboys lag with the satchels in their hands. The watchful bailiffs take their silent stands, and the schoolboys lag with the satchels in their hands. And those boys or really feel hesitate to go to school. They simply, in the London city, those schoolboys are also a little bit of corruptive in their duty. They simply want to escape from the school. What they do is they simply take the bag along with the books. They go to school in a very late time. They are too much delaying to go to school. That delay indicates they are hesitant to go to school. So it's an universal phenomenon, irrespective of any country. The schoolboys, the attitude of children and schoolboys is the same all over the universe, dear friends. That's what we have seen in our life. So, dear friends, with this, the poem ends, and I hope this poem would have helped you to understand about the London city, the London of that time, and the plight of workers and the corrupt and dull life of workers of the London city at that time. So, dear friends, so this is a short satirical poem, and I hope that it would be an informative and enjoyable to you. This poem would have given you some informations and a good stuff to you. And thank you, dear friends. Thank you. Meet you in the next video. Thanks.